Did you know Hanukkah isn't really a biblical event celebrated by the biblical descendants of the 12 tribes? Instead, it's rooted in a violent and manipulating plot which would deceive the world to this day. In 168 BCE, the Greek Seleucid Empire under Antiochus IV Epiphanes took control of Jerusalem and desecrated the Second Temple. They outlawed temple practices, set up an altar to Zeus, and even sacrificed pigs inside this holy site. What we are told is that the biblical Israelites fought back, but the Maccabees were not part of the biblical Israelites. They were imposters, counterfeits. Remember, the 12 tribes had been scattered previously and no longer lived together. Anyone could say they were Jewish, and indeed, that is what some groups did. Claiming Jewish identity and led by Judah Maccabee, the Maccabees launched a revolt, and by 164 BCE they took control of the temple. The holiday of Hanukkah celebrates this moment, and the so-called miracle of the oil that lasted 8 days instead of 1. But what was the temple like before this corruption? The temple used to be deeply important to the 12 tribes, and only God-appointed men were to become high priests. This was not the case for the Second Temple. By the time this temple was built, the 12 tribes had been scattered, and only Judah and Benjamin were with the temple. There were no appointed Levites to be high priests, and so everyone from the Greeks to the Romans to the Maccabees wanted control over the temple. For he who controlled the temple controlled the area and people, and so it happened that not only counterfeit priests entered into the temple, but even biblical temple traditions were copied. For example, Hanukkah and Yom Kippur. Today, Yom Kippur is said to be one of the holiest Jewish days, but back then it was known in biblical Hebrew as Yom HaKippurim, the Day of Atonement. This Day of Atonement was eradicated together with the Second Temple when the Christ himself and ultimately humankind became the temple of God. The Maccabees were not part of the 12 tribes. Please do your own research. They were a family, the Hasmoneans, and not from the traditional Zadokite high priest lineage. And while they led a fight for so-called religious freedom, Jesus later warned the people of these counterfeit Jews, "Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews, and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before your feet and to know that I have loved you." Revelation 3:9. Now having control over the temple, they installed themselves as high priests and later rulers, combining religious and political power in a way that went against godly tradition. This shift caused tension. Many Jews questioned the legitimacy of their rule, as they weren't the rightful heirs to the priesthood or kingship, but for a time, the Hasmoneans held both. After the temple was destroyed in 70 CE, the rituals of Yom HaKippurim transformed. Without a temple, the focus became all about writing and studying books and traditions, which is why the counterfeit 12 tribes observe Yom Kippur today. So when you light a Hanukkah menorah or fast on Yom Kippur, you're not really connecting with your Creator, but rather remember a time in which Judaism, also known as Zionism, was created.